hope you're doing great. So I wanted to get on here because I wanted to talk to you about romantic relationships, and I wanted to talk about living in the essence of being in the relationship that you wish to create for yourself, because I think a lot of times we get stuck in this mindset of wanting to have a relationship but not really knowing how to operate out of it, and we end up like pushing the lessons away and pushing the things away that are actually beneficial for our growth and that help us to better facilitate within a relationship structure. Okay, so we can get wrapped up in the sense that we're not in a relationship, and within that stop ourselves from creating the energy and creating the lessons that are necessary for our growth for when we are in a relationship. So an example of this, I seem to be using a lot of the examples of what I've previously gone through recently, and I could use other examples, but because the current situation that I went through is just like so strong and embedded into my mind, it was the most powerful experience that I've ever really gone through as far as like discovering who I am and really risking it all for the sense of knowing and the sense of truth that I hold within myself. So I'm going to step into that. But in the beginning, I was rejected, and I told the person that I was head over heels for them. And I'm sure that many people instinctively, when somebody comes to them and says, oh, I'm head over heels for you, and they think, oh, you're creating a story and you can't see clearly, and you aren't aware, and then, you know, the demons start coming out because the person feels like, how could this be true? And it like evokes protection. Okay, so a lot of people will, when somebody tells them right from the beginning, I'm into you and I like you and like I might be in love with you, and they feel like it's really weird, because I think a lot of people who are like in the light, like more people that are being presented as public figures and that sort of stuff, they probably go through this a lot more because there's more fear around, oh, well, what is this person trying to like gain from saying this? Or they've got a lot of people that are like following them and having crushes and then like overexerting themselves, and it becomes like this mashup of ideas of what that actually means. And there can be a lot of like inner turmoil that tells them this can't be true, or like protective, like I'll protect myself because this person might be like totally crazy. And I think sometimes that is the case. However, let's get into it. As far as like my own experience, I expressed that was deeply interested in this person. A lot of it had to do with what I saw this person expressing to the public, and how similar it was to who I was. And the energy, which obviously I read energy pretty well, seemed to be very parallel, almost like the anima and the animus. Okay, so divine masculine, divine feminine energy, and what I could see within myself as my divine masculine needing to come out and needing to be expressed, but I was very much a feminine. So anyways, relationships, I'm just getting off track. My brain just kind of like flipped into this like Carl Jung mindset where I wanted to like start elaborating on that, but we're gonna try to keep this consistent. Just hard for me. That's that feminine flow, like I said, and ADD, and just kind of like go everywhere. But we can get to a point where, because we've been rejected, or because there's this certain level of like, no, I don't really want you, or I'm not really interested in this, and then instantly we stop wanting to be ourselves, and we stop wanting to learn more about who we are, and we will run instantly. We're like, no, this is not good. And I'm not saying that's the wrong thing to do, because believe me, looking back, my intuition was telling me I needed to leave, and I probably should have left, but I didn't. My level of awareness, I knew that was wrong. I knew I was following a pattern, and I really wanted to see where the remainder of my blocks were and where the shadows of myself were that I wasn't looking at. Okay, so I was instinctively using what was happening as a tool in order to facilitate, first of all, change in the world, because I knew that I couldn't do it alone, and I knew that this person was starting to foster more. I could see the energy shifting, and I could see people really resonating with him, because I could resonate with him too, and I could see like just the way that it was starting to evolve. And I was like, you know what, I gotta step in. This is my opportunity for me to really come into like my truth, even if he doesn't want me. Like, I need to do this for myself. I need to see where my truth is, how deep I can go within myself, how I can really foster this in-depth knowing of myself regardless of being in a relationship. How can I come into my power and into my truth and really speak from the sense of knowing that I have within myself, because I hadn't done that before. I'd really started to, I mean, it seems like I did. It seems like I was able to like do it easily. I'm sure being in the development of everything, everybody probably thought, oh, she knows exactly what she's doing, and she's, you know, but she's speaking out and she's outspoken and all this. And people probably had like a really hard time with me, but what they don't realize is that like in those moments I was terrified, and like I had a really hard time speaking up. I had a really hard time like coming into my truth. I had a really hard time because like not only was I like nurturing a part of myself that felt rejected, but I was also offering myself the opportunity to do it besides rejection, to not accept rejection as a means for not doing what I knew was right. Okay, so I knew I needed to create change. I knew I needed to like do it for myself, and it had nothing to do with anybody else except for my lessons and what I needed to take from it. And it evolved as it went on into more of the like, I really need to support people because this isn't right, and I really need to like work on this because this, and I need to speak up because this isn't right. You know, my intuition started acting up and being like, you need to stop this from happening. You need to be outspoken in this particular way or this particular way. And anyways, let's get back to the relationships part, because that is a big thing and a big foundation of how I was able to facilitate this like deeper understanding of myself and this like emotional awareness. And so when I went into it, it was like, okay, well, he rejected me, and he's like, you should cut cords with me and you should do this. And I didn't really like want to do that. I had like this innate feeling of like, okay, you can reject me, but I know what I need, and I know that like I need to go through this in order for me to like come to a lesson. You know, there has to be more for me to not want to like retract myself completely. And I knew that like I had done that a lot in the past, where I had just like ran from people as soon as they rejected me because I couldn't handle it. I was like, no, I'm like, I can't handle this. Like, this isn't cool. Like, how could you reject me? And that was my ego, right? My ego was like, how dare you? But I was like, I'm gonna fight past my ego because I want to see what's beyond this. And so, having conversations with this person, I was starting to act in a way where I was facilitating this like fantasy of partnership, of like, maybe if we keep facilitating this, maybe eventually something will manifest. And it wasn't an expectation, but it was more of like an acting in a way where you can be honest with your partner and you want to like be as transparent as possible. And I wanted to really try to be vulnerable. I wanted to really try to be my most authentic self and show up so that we could work on things together, you know. And I thought that that would be like a great foundation for inner growth and awareness. And it really was. It really was. As much as everything was like really painful and like there was some hard shit that needed to be learned on his behalf and on mine too, and on everybody else that was part of it as well. But I don't want to get like the picture wrong though. I don't want people to think that like I had expectations that it was going to work out in the long run, because, you know, I have said that because it feels like almost that idea of what it was forced upon me. Like I almost had to like just agree that it was because I liked him, because he kept coming back at me and he was like, we aren't in, like, you need to get over it, like type deal. And I kept saying, oh yeah, I need to get over it, I need to get over it. But I kept showing up. I kept showing up as if we were in a relationship, as if I was fostering this like in-depth knowing of things. And sorry, my grandma's in the other room. She's doing what she's doing and I can hear her. That always makes me the ADD starts. So I'm trying to like focus. But I don't think if I was to have operated from another way, I would have been able to uncover so much like depth of truth of who I was, and be able to come to such an empowering place of self-awareness and speaking honestly and transparently and fighting for myself and for those that were part of the community. I think I would have probably seized up and silenced myself, but I took initiative to act in a way that was not self-deceiving and was more, I mean, I guess it was in some sense, because I fought against my intuition to leave, and it ended up being that the person treated me improperly. But I operated in a sense of like allowing him the opportunity to really hear me out. I spoke clearly. I consistently messaged him about things that I thought were wrong. I consistently operated from like allowing him to see into me, allowing him to see the most vulnerable truths of who I was and what I didn't think was proper. And yes, it was utilized in an improper way, and it was the wrong person, and he really did a number on me because he wasn't there, and he wasn't at the same mindset of like, you know, maybe in some ways he was. Because there were times where we'd have conversations and he'd listen, and I continue to tell myself that, but at the same time, I know that that was used as tools against me in the long run, and I got kicked out in the long run because he couldn't handle it. And that was his fears and his usual avoidant tendencies. So it ended up hurting me, and then it just happened the way that it did, right? Lessons. And I'm sure he feels like he did what he had to do in that moment because he knew that I was struggling at the end of it. Could we have probably gone through it, and could we have developed this new level of like observation and like depth? Yes, I believe so. I believe that if he would have just left things, like I feel like I probably would have got to the point where I would leave, or I would have like reverted back and like taken back more of my power, because I was just getting to a point where I couldn't handle it anymore and I was super sick. But I think it's important that we go into our life in the sense of like living as if we have a relationship, or that we are like operating in a sense of what we would operate if we were in a relationship, right? So with everybody, we have those transparent conversations. We're not afraid to speak and talk and be vulnerable and like express and see what we can learn. And I think he realizes that, but the problem is that there are some people that will utilize that space to better like suit themselves. And to me, that doesn't seem proper. Like, that seems using it the wrong way for manipulation versus using it the right way for self-awareness and for self-understanding, so that you can stop operating from your like consistent need for validation or your consistent need for this or that, right? And we can come to forgiveness then, right? Like, hopefully he understands that, you know, and it's not up to me to know whether or not anybody understands that. And I don't think it's up to anybody to understand what another person, where they're going with their truth of you speaking as if you were in an open relationship about your needs and stuff. Okay, so like, don't get me wrong. I don't want you to worry about anybody else's shit, because you don't have to. Mind my French. But it is super important for us to be aware. You know, it doesn't mean that when you go into your relationships that you're going to be perfect, because you're not going to be perfect. You're going to have to learn. You're going to have to accept. I have 1717 on the clock. You're going to have to accept that you're not fully healed. And you're going to have to take ownership of that. Because if you don't, and you start telling people that you are, and you use that as if you are when you're not, that is wounded. Being honest and transparent and saying that you're not operating in the best capability and you're working on something, that is it's like acting in a sense of truth and acting in a sense of transparency and giving yourself permission to come into a vulnerable space where others may potentially look at you and go, oh, I thought you had that all figured out. Because when you start operating and making people believe that you have it all figured out, and then that is not apparent, and people see your little things that aren't lining up, you're going to notice, like, people are going to call you out. You're going to get called out. So we are all learning, and I don't think any of us is perfectly figured out, and a lot of this shit that we talk about is stuff that we're working on. And those who actually claim that and who say, yeah, I'm working on this and I can teach you and I can help you, but I'm still working on things. Like, I'm not, and that is truth. That is compassion. That is empathy. That is realness. That is raw. Okay? Don't always believe everybody else that is like coming from, oh, well, I worked through this, I'm now a secure attachment style, and they like claim it. You know what I mean? I feel secure, but I know sometimes I'm not secure in a lot of things. And I know that when somebody comes into my life and they were acting from a wounded place, that's when my insecurities can sometimes come out. Especially if like it's a consistent thing. Like, secure attachment styles can handle it for a certain like part of things, but it's not always, you know. And so anyways, the bottom line of this talk was to just remind you that it's okay to operate in a sense of like you're acting as if you're in a relationship, because that is how you attract, law of attraction. But know that even in doing that, you're going to have to face your shadows, because they're going to come full force when you start acting as if you're in a relationship with anybody or anything. So use the tools, use the lessons, 2020. Use the tools, use the lessons, and I hope that you get all the growth that you need and all the growth that will help you to be even better for when you do find a relationship, when you do find a person that's compatible with you, that understands you, and that's willing to do the work with you. Because if somebody's willing to do the work with you, don't give up on that person. There's a reason they're in your life, and eliminating them from your life is only going to cause you to feel like you made a mistake. And if you did eliminate somebody from your life, you can always go back. You can always rekindle that. You can always make it right. You don't have to be stuck. And I know avoidant attachment styles will likely, like, they avoid 2112. Okay. 2121. Just it's gonna be okay. Okay? So none of this is supposed to be so, like, hard that we can't move through it. It's supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be a lesson. And when we start taking things so seriously, we start really hurting our relationships and burning bridges that we don't need to burn. Just saying. Everything's a lesson. And I mean, there are people that you have to really put bridges on, and you have to, like, burn those bridges because they're, like, really, really not good for you. Especially if it's, like, a consistent thing. Like, if you've forgiven again and again. If you've gotten rid of people and then they come back and it's the same shit all of the time. 2222. Then that might be something that you need to, like, put some serious boundaries on until they can figure their shit out, or you can do some work and figure yours out, because there could be something that you're triggering inside of them too. Just being real. Okay. I'm done rambling. Live as if you are in a relationship and learn what you can. Okay? Love you guys so much. Also, that is a really strong way to encourage emotional intelligence, is if you are living in that way, because then you can start to foster, like, this new awareness. So, okay. Is that good? Okay. I love you guys. Like, subscribe, follow, share it with your friends, as per usual. Okay? Toodles. Bye.